We're here today with Colin Gawel from the band Watershed. They've got a new album. It's called Blow It Up Before It Breaks. They're coming to Minneapolis here to the Underground Music Cafe on September 30th. Colin, how's it going?
Great.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's an honor, man. I've been checking out your podcast. It's another one I'm listening to all the time. All kind of great rock and roll and cool stuff and some pro wrestling mixed in. It's right up my alley. It's really cool.
Wow, thank you so much. I didn't expect to hear that, but that's great that you're checking it out.
Oh yeah, for sure. So much good stuff out there, you know. So it's it's been really neat, and it's my honor, believe me.
Well, Colin, I wanted to ask you if you could tell the listeners a bit about your band, Watershed, maybe if they haven't found you guys yet. I know you've been around a while.
Yeah, Watershed, it's a crazy tale. We started back in middle school, the same guys back in like early 80s, I guess. And we've never stopped. We've always kept going, and we've had, highs and lows. And we're, people like to talk about when we were on Epic Records, but then we've always kept doing other records. So we have a new album that came out this year, and we're coming back to Minneapolis, and we're doing a few shows on the road, which we haven't done in a long time. So it's just kind of influenced by Kinks and Cheap Trick and just friends that have kept a band going their whole life. And we've never taken breaks per se. We've never stopped. Life has gotten in the way a little bit, but we've always stayed active. We've always played music and done creative things. So it's not like, we had a band and took 25 years off and we're, doing this instead of a golf trip. This is something we've always loved since we were young kids, and we're lucky to keep doing it.
Awesome. And you've got a new album out here, Blow It Up Before It Breaks. What are we in for with the new album here?
Exactly. We're real excited about it. We put a lot of work into all our records, and this one took a little more time now. We're in that stage where Joe Astrike, who is in the band with me, he's a professor of English down in South Carolina. The rest of the band is based here in Columbus, Ohio still. So it took us a little longer to kind of get all the pieces together. But, it's a straight up rock and roll record in the tradition of, our favorite bands we'd like to think are like things like the Kinks and Cheap Trick. So if you're fans of like rock and roll and that kind of power pop with kind of a, power pop, but also a darker side sometimes too, that's kind of like what Watershed we try to do, I should say.
And as you mentioned, you guys have been making music together since high school. I mean, that says a lot about your friendship, but a lot about the music as well. I mean, how has it been in the studio this time around for the new album? I mean, you've obviously got a system that works.
Well, everyone's been different. Back in the day, we would do, when we were in Epic, we'd go to New York City and we were in the power station and we'd do records. And that's when they had a lot of money to spend and lose on bands like Watershed, I might add. And then, we were very active. We toured for about 20 years straight, and we'd always do a tour and an album and all that kind of stuff. But more recently, put out singles, and then pick away at a big album. We work with a fella named Tim Padlin up in Michigan, and a guy named Mike Landolt in Columbus. But really, we did most of the record up in Michigan with Tim Padlin. And, there's no deadline. So we really tried to, take our time with it and make something we feel really good about. Because obviously, where we're at, we're doing it because we love the music and we love hanging out and playing the shows. So we wanted to feel great about it. And I think this album, people of course we love it. It's our album, but a lot of people seem to really like it. And that always feels good.
Awesome. And you mentioned a Watershed coming to Minneapolis here, September 30th to the Underground Music Cafe. Has it been a while since you guys have been through Minnesota?
Well, here's the thing. When we got this album out, we said we absolutely have to get back to Minneapolis. We played Minneapolis 19 times, but we haven't played there in almost 20 years because it just never made any sense once we were kind of out of touring to come all the way up there. And I'm actually looking at a little list here. It's like our first show there was Thanksgiving Eve in 91 at the Uptown. I remember we were just kids. We drove all the way up there when we were 18 just to play the Uptown.
Okay.
All those years ago. And since then, we played 7th Street, Caboose, 400 Bar, First Avenue, the North Shore Theater. I don't remember that at all. O'Gara's, Urban Wildlife. And we always had a lot of friends in the Twin Cities. And even when we were on Epic Records, Epic had a little office up there. And, around we did most of our stuff out in New York City and recording, but we were really more of a Midwestern band. So we really hit it off with the guys working in Minneapolis, Steve and Paul. And through that, we became friends with Slim Dunlop and a band called Flip. And we've just had a lot of friends up there. So it really means a lot to us to get back to Minneapolis. This was the only show we played. This would be the only show we want to do. We're going to play some other shows, but we're really excited to come up and see our friends up there and play. So it should be, it'll be a great fun for us no matter what.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to that. Again, Colin Gawel's with us, and we're talking about the new Watershed album, Blow It Up Before It Breaks. And you mentioned the early days there, Colin, being on Epic Records for a while. And I wanted to ask you a bit about that. It sounds like you kind of got a bit of a raw deal, I guess. Do you look at it that way, or is it like better to have loved than lost kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not. A lot of bands, and we got signed. We did a lot of work on our own. We grew up in our high school in Worthington, Ohio. We all went down to Ohio State, but we went there only because we knew we were going to keep our band together. It kind of gave us cover. Then we dropped out of school and we would call clubs and we would tour around the whole country in our van. And eventually we had a demo that ended up in New York City that ended up, the driver of Jim Steinman was literally the driver was playing our demo. And Jim was like, who is this? And he really liked it. And Jim Steinman, of course, is known for Bat Out of Hell and all those things. And then they ended up sending a guy out to check us out in Columbus. But we did it. We were a real band and we had a following. It wasn't like we just got super lucky. So we end up on Epic Records and we do a couple records there. And, we go out and we get to tour the Smithereens. It's amazing. Everything's great. And then, at the end, after about a year and a half, we got dropped. It was unexpected. We thought we were going to have a summer tour and we had a song doing well in Chicago. But, that's how it goes in their major labels. So they kind of dropped us and Silverchair got all our tour dates and it was like over that quick. But I will say this, and Slim Dunlop was a friend of ours from way back, and he used to give us all kind of life advice, and it's all kind of how you look at it. And the way I look at our Epic Records experience is, first of all, a bunch of bands better than us never get signed to a big label, so you have to be grateful right there, and I know plenty of them. The second thing would be if you were on a game show and someone said on The Price is Right, you won, here's your prize package. For 2 years, you're not going to work at all. You're going to live in New York City. You're going to record at the Power Station. You're going to run into Steven Tyler and Rick Rubin and AC/DC. And your album's going to go out in every store in the country. And then you're going to tour at the Smithereens and you're going to go all over the place. And it's going to be a blast. And then at the end of 2 years, you just got to come back home. And that's the end. That's still a pretty good prize. You know what I mean? So sure. I think a lot of it's how you look at it. Bands that feel like, it didn't work out. We've never approached that way. We felt like it was a great experience. We were lucky to be there in the first place. And, and then from that, we've always kept going and we've had other high points throughout the career too. So we've always done it for the music, but that's how I look at that experience. Is it was a fun thing to do. And what a great thing to have happen to us.
Well, and it's something to be said, the fact that you guys are still together now and have had the career you've had for over so many years. And I know you've played with a lot of greats over your career. I wanted to ask you, kind of an odd pairing on paper, I guess, but I saw you guys were touring with the Insane Clown Posse back in the day.
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty infamous tour. That was after Star Vehicle, the album we put out after Twister, which was on Epic Records. And I thought Star Vehicle was a better record. And that's the other thing, Watershed. We got signed pretty young, so we were kind of a baby band. I mean, our Epic Records, people like them, but, they're not the best records. We understand that. They're pretty good, but we got better and we did an album called Star Vehicle. And then the label that was going to be on, something fell through. And we couldn't get any tours, but we had mutual friends and no one would open up for the Insane Clown Posse because the crowds were so hard. And this was right when they were just starting to take off on Great Malenko. So they're playing like 3,000 seat places and they literally couldn't find any band that was willing to open for them. And we're like a band with no gig. We just got dropped. We have a new album out and we're like, you know what? We'll do it. So we're out there, 3-piece rock and roll band opening for the Insane Clown Posse. And, it was just the first night we played in Scranton. We were up there and we're like hearing the crowd kind of chanting something like Watershed, water. Like, oh man, maybe we have a song on the radio here? And we crack the door open a little bit and we can hear the whole crowd chanting Watershed sucks, Watershed sucks before we even went on stage, right? So we walk out, everyone just starts throwing stuff at us. And it was pretty much how it was every night for like 30 shows. But it was a gig and, the guys and the clowns were cool. And they appreciated us doing that because their show was only an hour long and they needed somebody to at least cover 8 to 8:30 in these venues. And, the Juggalos were younger then. They were more like kids getting dropped off in suburban minivans. So it was a crazy pairing because it wasn't like it was a bad bill. It was two completely different styles of music. So it wasn't like there was really any middle ground at all. But, other than the 30 minutes we were on stage, it was a great time.
Well, a lot of those juggalos now are middle-aged, so maybe you guys could go back out again. It might be a different deal this time around.
I don't know, man. Our vibe, they weren't digging the live rock and roll vibe too much from us. But you know what? It was once again, it was an amazing experience, and I can't say it was pleasant. It was not. And our original drummer Herb ended up leaving after that tour. He decided it was time to do something else. And then we found a new drummer, Dave. And now on this tour, both our drummers, Herb and Dave, are both coming with us because we all want to do it together. But
Okay.
it was an experience I wouldn't wish on other bands, but it was something we had to go through. And we came back. I thought was our strongest. Our albums have gotten stronger every time, which is what you hope, right? You want to always get a little better at what you're doing. It's not like we're Olympic sprinters. We don't have to get worse. You can get better in the creative field. So we feel good about all the stuff we've done.
Well, and outside of music, you guys are in other bands and running businesses and teaching at colleges. I mean, you never seem to be slowing down here over the years.
Yeah, we've always stayed active. Like Joe Astrike, he wrote a book about Watershed called Hitless Wonder, and it was like a big thing. It was a major publisher, and if you Google it, it was like reviewed by the Washington Post and all these things. And then he's written 3 more novels since then. So Joe's quite an accomplished novelist. And so that's pretty cool. And then I've stayed in Columbus. I have a coffee shop, and I'm not talented enough to write books. So I have a website called Pencil Storm that I blog on with other people. And then I've always stayed active with music. I have a solo band, the League Bowlers, and I'm always playing, doing my thing. So between Joe and I, we've always stayed creative in different ways. And then we've always played, even if we're not out publicly playing, we always get together and rehearse and work on music. So we've always, been, if it were a different way, we would have just done music our whole life. But, as we all know, that's not, what you want and what you get isn't always, I think we're probably where we deserve to be. And we feel good about that.
Excellent. Well, again, Colin, the new album here is just out, and you guys will be heading to Minneapolis on the 30th. Is there anything else maybe we should be watching out for?
I mean, other than that, I just appreciate anyone, I really appreciate you giving us the time and, just all, the word of mouth and getting the word out about music. We're just trying to get the word, get people to give it a listen. We love the record. We think there are people that want to try it out. We'll really enjoy it too. We all love finding a band we've never heard before. It's a great feeling. And we're hoping maybe, with getting around with this new record, maybe some new people will check it out. And then you got a bunch of records to listen to, and it'll just make your life a little bit better.
Awesome, man. It's been great speaking with you. And I'm glad you guys are still out there getting it done. And I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hopefully I really appreciate it. And like I said, it's going to be a great show. I mean, it'll be a great rock and roll show, old school, no pedals, just rock and roll. We'll hit all the things we can and have a good time.
All right, sounds great. Thanks a lot, Colin. I appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate it, man. Much appreciated.
And again, that was Colin Gawel from the band Watershed. Their new album, Blow It Up Before It Breaks, is out now. And they're heading to Minneapolis. They're coming to the Underground Music Cafe on September 30th.